Hey everybody, it's me, Lindsay19. It's your girl once again doing her little for some reason I want to call it my forbidden podcast, but I guess it would be more appropriate to say my forsaken podcast, but no, I'm not forsaking it. I'm here right now working on it. Because it's been like what, 6 weeks, month and a half, something like that. And I want to I feel like I spent most of the last episode talking about my brother and stuff, which makes sense. Is still pretty fucking heavy. It's homegirls reeling, um, but you know what I mean. Just gotta move forward. But yeah. So, but I have done stuff, and I've done lots of stuff, lots of exploration and things, and figuring out what it all means. I haven't really figured out what it all means, but I do have some very good insights into that. Yeah, I've got my. You know what? Maybe that's what we should do. We should go through my trauma chart. Maybe that will help me convey exactly what's going on in here. Because what I've begun to realize is that I never really considered myself one of those people who uses like kink to work through trauma or to like relive trauma or anything. But the more I explore, the more I'm like, shit, Lindsay19, you just might be one of them people. And I was like, oh fuck. Um, and so I've been doing a lot of digging. Last episode I talked about doing that scene with the sadist where something was a little bit missing. That kind of really went down the toilet hard. I don't really want to go into that, but I was accused of having male privilege, and I'm like, holy shit, male privilege, huh? Interesting. Um, yeah, but yeah, so that kind of went south, but it was funny because that was brought up. That was brought up. I believe that was kind of like their emotional response to me giving like not like glowing feedback because they like thought everything was perfect in those scenes, and I told them like structurally everything was. I'm just trying to figure out what is missing for me to so that we both know if it's worth it to continue to play. Because if you can't meet my needs, and I'm not enjoying myself, then what are we doing? And so my feedback was long and extensive. It was like 7 pages, but it was meant to give context into like where my head's at and what I'm looking for and stuff. And for some reason, I don't know, they just and I was very clear about like the positives and what very clear about what they did right, and but they were is very insecure and took it very defensively and um said something about I don't know. I mean, basically, but so I was talking to a friend that morning about how one of my insecurities socially is like a lot of people will get to know me and talk to me and like get close to me and then they'll say something or they'll like admit that like they don't think I'm real. Like that, I'm a dude or I'm not really who I say I am. I'm and this can go in the hard thing of just them being like, oh, you're a confused man, or it can go in those hard mean directions, but also in like weird misguided directions. um but it comes out with people sometimes, and sometimes I get close to somebody and then like something will slip out and I'll be like, what do you mean by that? And they're like, oh shit. And so I was like, most of the time I feel like a ghost. Like I feel like most people don't see me. Like I generally feel inauthentic. Like, because I never really felt like a boy either, but I was like a cross dresser. Like I had to fit in with the boys. I had to infiltrate them. So for the first majority of my life, I was having to convince the world that I was a boy, and now I'm having to convince the world that I'm a girl. And it's like this whole fight against inauthenticity is exhausting. And so I kind of go through life generally feeling like, oh, some not everybody sees me. Like they didn't see me, that definitely very like nobody saw me in my old life. Like, I mean, there's a few people that like noticed I was very sensitive or different or whatever. But like, I feel like they probably and people had said things that indicated that they had caught a glimpse of what was hiding underneath my male exterior. But like, yeah, like I feel like people don't see me and shit. And so when that person made the comment about me having male privilege, it like was that whole thing, because they had very expressly made it clear that that they, I don't know, were a trans ally. I don't know, but then I was like, I'm sorry, why would you use the term male privilege? Am I a man to you? You know, and like they were like, I don't know, I don't want to get into it, but basically, I turned to that friend and I like showed them, and they like understood immediately. They were like, "This is the exact thing you were talking about this morning," and I was like, "There it fucking is, like right there," you know. Um, yeah, that was a rough one. But I get that a lot, you know, like people just, I don't know, and then my trust issues and all that shit. Um, but I've kind of gathered up a lot of this trauma about my like abandonment shit from a young age, and then mixed in with my trans identity, mixed in like where the kink comes in. Like I've kind of taken all these threads and just like put them on an Excel spreadsheet. This is what I've done, and I've color coded it by like pillars and like I don't know. But I guess we could kind of share that, because I feel like that would be a good way to kind of dive into my headspace a little bit, and just to do a little self exploration. Maybe somebody can resonate with some of what I got going on up here. Maybe they can help me out. Please, fucking help me. Oh, where is it? Is it gone? Did I delete my trauma spreadsheet? Am I cured? No, there it is. No. There it is. But yeah, so I have been talking and thinking about a lot of this stuff with somebody. And they were kind of there to like give me the space to really like let a lot of this out and breathe and shit. And they were very patient, and that was fucking rad of them. But this like kind of is the culmination of my fucking journeyings up until now. And God, I did this like a little bit over a month ago, and even just looking at it, I'm like, oh God, do I really want to dive back in? But I really feel like I should, because I've been struggling with the abandonment space lately, and so I thought it'd be good for me to put in the work today and really like get it out in the sunlight and stare at it a little bit, even if it's ugly and I'm embarrassed by it. So with the sadist, the thing that because I put out an ad looking for a non-sexual bondage top, and I mentioned that in my last podcast episode, is that's what I was looking for, and that's where I wanted to start. That's just not what happened. That was not at all what happened. Like they again weren't really versed in bondage. Like I mean, they responded to my ad. They were experienced. I was definitely willing to try the waters and everything. Um, but I had said a few times about like my needs when we were talking about them, and just like sometimes I just need to be tied up. And they kept coming back to this like, well, obviously, like that's not all you need. Like, what do you like done to you? And I'm like, well, this is nice, this is nice, I like these, and I do like plenty of things done to me. But at some level, that's it. Like, and I had, and for a long time I had the trouble defining that, or asking for that, or understanding what that was about, um, until this. And so this is so there's four categories here, and the first one is my foundational pillar of needs. This is like six things that are I consider to be like essentially something I need. Um, yeah, so there's needs. Yeah, we'll go on to the rest. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, Sensory deprived heavy bondage. That's what this is all about. That's what this is fucking everything is about for me. That's where I'm trying to go. That's where I want to go. Like I've been there a couple of times, usually in like a service top situation though, where I am literally like designing the scene for myself with somebody else, and I've scratched the itch a little bit, but this is what I need. Um, and by sensory deprived heavy bondage, I mean like I've talked about, I like tight, I like snug, I like inescapable is I know that's a weird, you know, and of course like safety measures in place, like or whatever, but I feel like not being able to just unhook myself and get out on my own is an important part of that headspace. But of course, we're talking about doing things safely here. Um, and I understand like your top can just suddenly have a heart attack and die, so there needs to be some safety measures in place, whether it's a call, whether another call in case your safety call has a heart attack and dies too. Like what if these fucking heart attacks are contagious? But um yeah, I need tight, I need snug. The sensory deprivation part is mostly the mouth and eyes, like, and this is all gonna make sense as we piece the puzzles together. But I need my eyesight and my verbal capabilities taken away from me. This is fucking crucial. So I need that, and I have despair and malaise due to this perceived inability to get this thing, because I can't seem to fucking get this thing. And would I get close, like with that last top I was seeing, not the sadist, but the one before that, the one where I really felt there was a lot of potential and energy. We did a scene where it was they approached me before that day and was like, well, I want to do something that you want to do. Like, you tell me what sounds really good to you and we'll do it. And I was like, could you just like hog tie me really, really tight and blindfold me and gag me and just like cuddle on me or something? I don't know. Just like be close with me, or just some sensual stuff or sensory play or something. And they were like, all right. And we did it and they got me in, and then like, and it was great. Like I was like, perfect. Okay, this is good position. And then they just immediately got bored, and like I could just tell from their like hands and everything, they didn't know what to do and they were not enjoying themselves, and it was fucking boring. And like I was just like, I didn't last very long before I was just like, okay, you got to take me out. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this is not what I had in mind. And that led to like a heavy discussion after that about like what was really wrong with that, but or for me, what was really wrong with that for me, and what went wrong in my, because I guess you could almost say essentially I safe worded on that scene, but not because like I felt like emotionally in danger, I suppose you'd say. Like I felt like I like alone, but not in the correct way. If that makes sense. That's an interesting thought. I hadn't really thought of that. But when done right, through sensory deprived heavy bondage, I achieve catharsis when the need to socially sell and when the need to socially sell the authenticity of my identity is removed. So that's a heavy thing about. Remember, I talked about like needing to always convince the world that I was a boy, and now having to do it a girl. I do that with my eyes and my mouth, and with my body gestures, like with communication, like and when I can't do those things, suddenly that stipulation is removed, that need to sell myself, to show myself, to or to sell a presentation, in the case of me needing to be a boy, is removed, and I don't have to, and I just get to exist. And it's like in my day-to-day life I'm inherently inadequate, and into myself, because like of my mind body disconnect. We'll get into all that. But yeah, if I can just exist and I don't have all the pressure of the social stuff, that's an important space for me. And yeah, and there's this idea that and of course people have like, told meditation. I have issues with meditation. It's so difficult. It's so difficult. I can't. That's part of, I think that's part of wrapped up in what's going on here is this inability to just give myself permission to just exist. To just exist. Like something has to be done like at all times or something, I don't know. And there's also within this need is this insistence that it needs to happen to me and not be my fault. Because if it happens to me, it's not my fault. If I ask for it, if I like, seek it out or whatever, or if it's like something I'm like paying for or something. Well, I mean, that's not really, I mean, femdom has been a viable option for me, I feel. Um, but, or I mean femdom. I mean prodom is what I mean. It does. I don't give a shit about gender when it comes to prodom, but I just want competency. But I need to be the victim of this bondage. Is the idea is that I need, like, ideally, like if I ideal like relationship or whatever, or that particular one, it would just, bondage is this type of bondage is something that would just be thrust upon me. It would be done to me 2-3 times a week, maybe, I don't know, depending on, like, I don't know, I have no idea. But like it would just be something that I don't have to ask for, that it's understood that it's a need of mine, and it's something that, like, essentially I am taken from the world, pinned down and restrained and put in this position. And it's not my fault, it's just, it's something that happened to me. Yeah. But, and also, and so, and within this space I achieve adequacy, if only temporarily. And of course the overall goal of all this is to get a handle on myself, to self-actualize and achieve adequacy in my day-to-day, which, it's not to say I always feel inadequate, but yeah, that's part of it. I mean, whether it's a trans thing or not, I'm sure plenty of people struggle with that. Another pillar is discipline. This is kind of a broad one. So discipline, and the idea of, I achieve like catharsis through like self-improvement, refinement, like sharpening of self, by having like standards that I hold myself to, things that I do because they are rules, you know, and being, and the being held accountable, that's more of the punishment thing, but that is the perceived overall goal of my like kink journey, and a lot of my other just like separate journeys too, is I just want to sharpen my mind and my resolve, and be better equipped to handle the chaotic world. I feel that this is very attainable. Yes. Punishment is the third one. I achieve catharsis through deserved, appropriate, or even the threat of punishment. Sometimes even just the threat, knowing it can happen, is enough for me. Yeah, being held accountable for my actions, and like a balancing of the cosmic scales. This is oh god. Yeah. That's a heavy one, and that's what the whole like corner time thing was about, was and I've been into that. Actually, I did talk about that one in the last episode a lot, is my craving for punishment. So I'm not going to go into that too much. But yeah, that is definitely part of it. The protocol DS relationship is another pillar. This feeling of needing to be kept, the security being owned, the rules and standards that I hold myself to, the stability of interaction, of getting my submissive head spacing. That's what a protocol relationship represents to me, where I can meet my psychological BDSM needs. That's and whether it's true or not, I guess that's what it represents to me, and that's why it's such a heavy thing for me to want and to need and to feel like I'm always on the search for, because it's so important. But it's, it's a tough search. I'm very picky, and like it's something that takes a lot of patience. And so it's a real heavy one for me. Structure, and that's also within the other realms too. A lot of these like overlap, but having somebody, having expectations of what's clear of me, or excuse me, I need to drink water. Um, clear expectations on what is expected of me, is what that represents. I have also like a kind of an unexpected catharsis through like exploring relationship anarchy and like embracing a non-structure. That's kind of a little detour, a little like side path I haven't really traveled down yet. But that idea of, because the structure is so important to me. But and I'm seeking it in so many ways. Like that one's such a deep root for me, because that's part of what was taken away from me at such a young age was structure. But the idea of embracing a lifestyle or a world where there is no structure, it's literally anarchy, and wanting that and being okay with that is something that, yeah, like it occurred to me recently that I'm actually doing a little bit of, and yeah, that might be a good avenue for me to kind of like, I don't know, blaze a new trail a little bit and just see where that one goes, because that might be unexpected for me. Um, but yeah, but within the structure, I get catharsis through stability, met expectations, the regularity of interaction, the rituals, the constant affirmations. Those things, being able to depend on something and to look forward to things, is important. And I think that's also why like disappointment is such a heavy trigger for me too, because I let myself look forward to things, and then getting that disappointment, and then being angry with myself for letting myself like look forward to things, and that, I think that goes into the trust too, is like when you look forward to something, you trust that, I guess, like your expectations will be met. And then when that doesn't happen, you could take that in a lot of different ways, but I take it to, I guess, abandonment places. Um, humiliation is a big one, and that's kind of what came up with the sadist thing when they were like, yeah, talked about their one of their lines being humiliation, but I talked about how that one's such a core for me, about even just like, because I was like, well, I mean, you're clothed and I'm naked, like when we're doing a scene. That's humiliation. Like I'm wearing a fucking dog collar. It's humiliation. Like, and you said that a hard limit of yours is humiliation, but like, I don't know. I consider humiliation to be such a foundational part of a DS scene dynamic that, for somebody to be like, I don't know, to, because yeah, I mean, because I thought that when they said that that was a limit of theirs, but we had done plenty of things that I consider to be humiliating, even doing the scene in front of people, like, I'm, bent over with my arms behind my back, like with fucking clamps hanging on my tits, like in measurable discomfort, while people are watching me and like smiling, like it's humiliating, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's fun, that's what I like, I'm here for it. But like, so it just kind of got brought on this larger dialogue. What is it? What is humiliation to me? Like, because I mean, obviously, like I get more separate like acts of it, like direct acts of humiliation. But I'm thinking of more of a smoldering like foundation of it that I kind of rest on, because it's such a big one to me. And I achieve catharsis through like accepting and affirming my submission, like even just like being submissive in and of itself, living and just having that aura during a scene or whatever is humiliating to me on some level, because I'm allowing myself to be that to somebody. But that's what I want, that's what I'm here for. So yeah. um It represents a safe place where I'm temporarily not responsible for maintaining my image, authenticity, or dignity. And that is something that became more apparent to me the more I thought about it. Was like specifically within a scene of and doing more about like specific acts of humiliation. I feel that my dignity is preserved within the top or the dom in the situation. That and it's some, I almost is like, next time I do a scene, I almost want to be like, okay, this is my dignity. I'm going to hand it to you because I trust you to take very good care of it. And, like do a little ritual where I hand it over and then they take it and put it somewhere very safe. And then after like aftercare is done and everything, after we've seen done aftercare, then they like go and get my dignity back and hand it to me. And then I like take it back. You know, that I was thinking that might even help me like have a little bit more abandon whenever I do humiliation play. But also like bimbification is on my radar. It's like it kind of represents a place where I don't get to be smart or I don't have to be smart. Like there was a guy who kind of like presented the idea to, because he knew I was very like intelligent and and like he was gorgeous, dude. Like he was like a model and shit. He's fucking ugh daddy, fucking total chaser and kind of a dick though. But he was like he was just kind of like talking and entertaining the thought that like, yeah, we both knew that I was smarter, but like, you know, just taking me out and just making me his like little bimbo arm candy girl that like like we both just, yeah, I would act silly and carefree and slutty like I like to, especially when I'm on cam, and he would just kind of like run with that energy and like give this presentation that he was the smart one in charge, but we both knew better. And like, I love that. So bimbification is on radar for me. I haven't really explored it outside of anything other than the interaction with that guy, but yeah, that was fun though. That was a good one. Um, let's see. So that is all of them. That is the 6 foundations of needs for me. The next pillar is elements contributing to mental suffering, and I'm going to try to just burn through this one because I'm sure that'll be easy. Number 1 is guilt. And a lot of this, came up about my inability to honestly ask for what I need, because like I was coming to tops and I didn't know how to ask for what I was wanting, which was just like, tie me up and leave me there. This is essentially what it comes down to at its core. But I didn't know how to ask for that because I think I just need that. I need to start with that with somebody. But I didn't know how to ask for that. And it's like, you can't really ask that of a top, I felt like, and I feel like, and still feel like that to some extent. But I've had some people express understanding and kind of get where this headspace is coming from, where this need is coming from. But yeah, I have a lot of guilt about this lack of understanding, what this need for sensory deprived heavy bondage means, what it implies. A lot of guilt about, yeah, not knowing what the fuck, why do I want that shit. Historic. And as well as historic inability and discomfort about opening up about kinks and fetishes and stuff like that. Like I've always been pretty closeted about fetish and kink stuff and all that. Like ever since I was little, I was always just like, oh god, like what is going on? Like I don't know, can't talk to anybody about that. Um, Guilt, because and guilt is such a heavy umbrella term for me too. This and that's why this next one is a little bit different, but guilt that I wish I could have been a man. I wish I could have just been a dude. Like I wish, it would have been a better life for me and the people around me, probably. You know, like I feel like that would have, it's just if the brain and body could have aligned, like I shit would have been easier and better for me, and shit would have been easier and better for everybody. So I got guilt about being trans, internalized transphobia, feelings of being less worthy because I'm trans. That was heavier oh, about a year ago. And so, but I've gotten a lot better with that. But just thinking of this, just like, oh, well, I'm trans. Like it's understandable that they don't want to mess with me, or that they wouldn't talk to me, or that they wouldn't consider me for this because I'm trans. Like I used to be right on board with that. I used to like apologize in advance for my transness and be like, "Oh, hey, I'm trans. Like, is it still okay if I come?" Like, and I'm still getting over that. Like, somebody took me to a friend's house not too long ago, and like I was like, we were sitting there having dinner, and I was like, because there's gonna be other people there, and I never met any of them, and then and I was like, they could be okay. Are they okay with like trans people? And he was just like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, so they don't know, like, they don't know I'm trans? And he was just like, no. And I was like, oh. And I was like, oh my God, well, I guess, sure, I guess I passed, right? And he was just like, oh, yeah. And I was like, I just figured, like, I pictured you calling ahead to, like, okay it or something. And he was like, well, do you want me to do that? And I was like, no. I mean, no. Because now that I'm saying it, that sounds like psycho shit. Like, yeah, that sounds like craziness coming out of my face. Why would I ask that? Um, so, yeah. So even up to like present day, that stuff shit still follows me. The internalized transphobia, um, guilt centered around the fear of wasting somebody else's time and energy, of being like dishonest with them and not being able to be upfront with them. And that's the reason I wrote that person, the sadist, the seven page feedback is like I have to be honest with them. And they did tell me that in the results. They were like, you know what, I mean, at least you're honest, because honesty is less than the world can manage, or less than most of the world can manage. And I was, fuck, I wasn't more than they could manage apparently. But I have a foundational childhood guilt over wanting to be submissive. Yeah, ever since I was little, like I was like, I wanted to be the one tied up, but I didn't know how to ask for that, and like I didn't know how to get it. And like I didn't know what it meant either. Like I was, and it was such a guilt, and that in itself was such a guilty headspace for me. Um, because even to this day, like being the submissive to me, like, um, is like a represents a place of like relaxation and of like it's almost being like given a massage, and it's like I can barely be given a massage without feeling like I'm taking from the other person. Um, to some extent. Like, I mean, there's one guy who give me a massage, and I can tell, like, just from his energy, like, he loves the giving, like, he loves the feeling of just like how I turn to fucking jelly when he really starts to like work up my back and shit, and I'm just like, like, he fucking melts me and shit, and like, so I don't feel so bad, like, in that case, but mostly anytime somebody's like servicing me, like I feel guilty about it. Like I should be giving back or something. And that's all the elements um, on the guilt category. The abandonment trauma itself. Tell me, Lindsay 19, is the abandonment in the room with us now? Yes. Yes, it is. The abandonment is in the room with us. The abandonment has not abandoned us. It will never abandon us. But yeah, so abandonment trauma, second pillar. Second pillar, second category. I experienced physical and emotional abandonment during my childhood from one parent, and then the other parent basically just emotionally abandoned me. It was physically present, but wasn't very emotionally available. And anytime I would come to them, they would minimize me and gaslight me and turn it back on me. And basically, so anytime I did have like big feelings or had something that I wanted to like be reassured about, they would like tell me I was being silly, basically. And so I learned to hide my feelings at an early age, because if I tried to express or show what I was going through, I was met with rejection. Um, and so, and that's really a heavy theme with me today. Yeah, and that's the one I really haven't, that particular parent is the one I really haven't like done as much mental homework on, because I really hadn't considered how damaging that was, because I mostly focus on the parent that disappeared, um, but not on the one that was physically present, even though in some ways you could say that was probably just as damaging, if not more, because they were there, and I was repeatedly traumatized with that constantly, and even to this day to some extent. I still can't like go to them and tell them much without them kind of being like, "Oh, it didn't happen that way," or "You're not remembering it right," or I mean, "Oh, that must have been a dream you had when you were little," and just shit like that. But I kind of have that fear that partners I'm with or that people I'm getting involved with will also have that reaction. Like if I'm feeling a certain way and I need to bring something up, that they're going to be like, well, that's because of this, or just write me off and be like, well, you shouldn't feel that way. And I've had people tell me that, be like, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. Why do you feel that? That's ridiculous. And I'm like, and maybe on some level, I know it's, I even may explicitly say I know it's ridiculous, but it's still how I feel. And I've had people like tell me like, just please clue me in, like, even if it's like irrational, even if it's like crazy, if you're suffering from it, just clue me in. And then sometimes I've broken my silence and clued them in, and even then they've been like, "Oh, that's ridiculous," and I'm like, "Oh, fuck, man. Okay, well, I'll just swallow it," you know. Um, but abandonment comes in a lot of different forms with me, and it's something I learned. Like it was an example set for me at an early age to abandon. It was like to foster connection, then leave. Um, and in some ways, I self abandoned myself, like and that's the idea of self abandonment. I say, that's something we do, or I do, when we don't like stand up for ourselves, when we like let ourselves, when we hold ourselves to a standard and then we like don't do it. We abandon ourselves when we don't do what's right for ourselves. um, and and more literally, self-abandonment though is like I was out to myself, or out to myself as a trans girl, or I didn't have the word trans girl, but I knew I was a girl when I was like 12, 13, 14. I was living as one in an online video game and shit, like had people who all knew me as a girl, and like that was just my life, and it was how I eased my dysphoria. But I didn't know what that was about, and it was 1999, and I didn't know what it was about. Y2K was too important. Everybody was too concerned about Y2K to think about trans people then. So I abandoned myself for 20 years, like from from the ages of like 14 to 35. I just like or 15 to 35. I just turned away from that side of myself and was like, I need to make a promise that I can live this life as a boy. Like, because that's the hand I was dealt. I need to take that card and fucking run with it. And that's part of this abandonment thing, is like, if I, it's like, I'll, it's like I derive power from it. Like this, like in the fucking Berserk, when Guts, spoilers, when Guts does what he does to the Band of the Hawk, Guts, not Griffith. When Guts does what he does to the Band of the Hawk, or what Griffith perceives as abandonment, um, that hit me hard, because I resonated hard with that, because that's that power that I was shown at such an early age, was like, you make something dependent on you and then you leave them to, like, and Guts's thing was like, he told him like, you'll find the legs to walk on your own, like just give it time. um but it destroyed Griffith, like literally destroyed him. Like that was the thing that ruined him, was abandonment. Like that's what transpired every other event in Berserk was this act of abandonment. You know, it's like that's what triggered the Bailet essentially. Um, yeah, and even like when it activates, like you know, the last thing he says before Guts touches him in his head is "Don't touch me," like because he's like, it's like he needs the abandonment at some point. Is like I don't know. Sorry, that was a little fucking tangent. I got fucking way off on that one. So if anybody hasn't like read or watched Berserk, you should give it a watch. It's definitely worth your time. The 1997 anime is wonderful. You'll love it. It's 25 episodes. It's all on YouTube. It's really easy to watch. But watch it. It's amazing. And yeah, I think Griffith suffered from abandonment trauma at an early age. But yeah, I abandoned myself for 20 years. But yeah, and that severity with which I have abandoned others, you know, because like I said, like it's like a I don't know if it's just like a measure of controlling the world, a measure of like maintaining power or something, or like I don't know what it is, or if it really is just comes down to like a measure of self-love or something, like knowing that you need to like walk away from something, because that's how I often construe it, is like the need to remove myself or to walk away from something or to abandon something is derived from um, a measure of health or something, or like this is how I protect myself is by doing this, or protect maybe not only myself but them. um, yeah. And I have a fear of like re-abandoning myself, like you know, and the fear of detransition is like a deep one, and that can either be forcibly, like whether through laws or something like that, or you know, some measure put in place that restricts my ability to be trans, like whether some fucking lunatic president gets in office and fucking flexes their fucking muscles as hard as they can, like whatever, like I don't know, like you know, it's like it entrance. You know, they can't just like put us in camps or anything. Like they have to make us illegal first, and if you do that, it'll just be really easy to transition from streets. You know, estrogen will flood the streets. You know what I mean? Like it won't be a big deal but you know, we won't have doctors' eyes on us and shit, and like, um, yeah, but you know, I think every trans person thinks about that to some level or some at some point. Is like what's gonna happen to me if I'm taking off my hormones, or just like you know, some of those laws about like that limit like cross dressing in public, or like presentations of like drag performance in public, like some of those are like worded weirdly. It's you know, it's been suggested that you know, if you're openly trans, like you know, somebody can just like fucking call the cops on you and construe you as like doing a public drag performance or something, and whether that's you know how it's real, the reality of it or not. I mean, that's how some of us are looking at it, and that's how some of us. It's something of how we already feel about like you know, being like just on the edge of being acceptable with the bathroom stuff. I mean, you know, we're all like, that's more of a thing designed to make us fearful about if we're in public for too long and we gotta pee, and you know, then it's like, well, I just might as well stay at home, or I might as well just not go, or you know, yeah, it's I don't know. It's just designed to make us feel less safe. Because I mean, you're gonna put me in the fucking men's room. I mean that's what they want. Like you know, and it's like, what am I supposed to be like? That's what I want. You know, it's like I'll find this piece of ass pulling up into the fucking urinal next to you. Like, I mean, it's not just about how I feel at that point though. How does that make you feel? Like uncomfortable or not, or you know, very very comfortable. Like it sucks. And it's like, and then you got like, you know, young person or something sees me in there, and like, I got fucking hips and curvy and shit. Like, I generally pass until I start fucking talking, you know? And so then you got fucking kids walking out of the boys' room and me walking in, and them immediately going out to their parents and being like, what's that lady doing going in there? And they're going to be like, oh, that lady obviously has a fucking penis, son, because that's why he went in there. And they're going to be like, That's crazy. And and like they're gonna be like, yeah, don't you do that? They're mentally disturbed or whatever. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Like, I'll go in the men's room. If y'all want me to go in the men's room, I'll go. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'll get so many numbers in the men's room. Maybe that's where I need to meet my dom. It's my problem. I've been shopping in the fucking ladies' room for a dom. But um, the bathroom thing drives me crazy. It's just I don't know. But yeah, anyway, I think yeah. But the other way of being forced to detransition, or not being forced, but just doing it out of like despair or something, or just being like, this is too difficult. It's just too much. Like, the world just needs me to be a dude. So fucking, I'm gonna give it another shot. Like, oh God, I would rather die than do that. But I think there's a part of you that's just like wonders what would be that pit of despair that would take me to that point. You know, so one of these like another emotional category, mental distress category, is feelings of inadequacy, which I've touched on. To me, related to me being trans, for me not being inherently right for the world, born in the wrong body, for needing to convince people that I was a boy, but now I'm a girl. That need to convince right there makes me feel inadequate. The need to sell that authenticity of my identity to others when being social, and the feelings of invisibility, the lack of external reality. And I don't mean lack of external reality like I'm mentally disturbed or anything, which I probably am. I probably got all sorts of weird shit going on in there, but the idea of like, because and that was more of a thing early on, was just like I felt such a disconnect from my body, which brings me on it. Honestly, let's just dump it in the next category: the mind body disconnect. Um, like I always had this mind body disconnect, and I think one of the major events that drew that out was a few months before I transitioned or hatched and realized I was trans, like truly realized I was trans. Um, a partner had tied me up in like sensory deprived heavy bondage, like, and it was probably the best one that had really gotten, like, it was, the details. I really laid out the details. I like wrote a laundry list of like step by step by step, like how to do this, and they did it, and it was like great. And they were kind of photographer, and they took a couple pictures, unbeknownst to me because I was bound and gagged and blindfolded. But they took some pictures, and I was in this little floaty space for 40-45 minutes, maybe something like that. And I come out, and they show me these pictures, and I was shocked. I was shocked because I didn't recognize the person in those photos. Like, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, there was such a disconnect between the headspace I felt when I was removed from my body, and then the like whiplash of being dropped back into that body and seeing it just not right at all for me, and just the hairy arms, the hairy legs, the bald head, like, these things hurt inexplicably bad to witness in that moment. And I mean, like, there's more pictures of me in existence taken in the last 11 months than there were for the entirety of my entire life. There are remarkably few pictures of me pre-transition in existence, and you'll be hard pressed to find one of those pre-transition photos where I'm smiling. Like, and it's only recently have I really gotten comfortable smiling in my pictures, and it's very nice. Like, it feels like that's my natural spot to go to now, is to smile in my photos, and I feel it too, and I feel that smile a lot of the times. Like, I do feel happier than I've ever been, despite things just being so heavy lately. Um, but yeah, just seeing that photo and not understanding what those feelings were about, and it wasn't long after that I started like compulsively like shaving my face like every day. Was just like no beard stubble, no beard stubble at all. I just can't do beard stubble, and I didn't know why. And then 2 months later, I was like, oh my god, I'm a girl. Um, yeah. So thinking about that like experience kind of made me really ruminate more on this like mind body disconnect. And I have like philosophically, I have discomfort with the whole ghost in the machine dualist philosophy, and I have anxiety about where I am. Like, what is consciousness? And that's why I got like involved in philosophy of mind. And because it was like, what is consciousness? That is my question of all questions. Like, Heidegger's was like, why is there something rather than nothing? And that was his like foundational question. And if you really want to break it down, I guess you could say, when you ask what is consciousness, you're asking why is there something rather than nothing. But really, I would say that's more foundational, because what is asking? You know what I'm saying? What is, if you ask why is there something rather than nothing, what's asking? So you have to ask what is consciousness first, Heidegger. Checkmate. Uh, Dead guy. Got him. But I'm sorry, everybody. That was stupid. But anyway, so I'm uncomfortable with dualist philosophy. I consider consciousness to be epiphenomenal, yet has like a two-way street of interaction. Like, it is epiphenomenal in nature, but it does bear, there is like a, what do you call that, a circular feedback loop or whatever. Like, it's like a smokestack from a train. Consciousness is the smoke from a train smokestack, but the smoke like interacts with the train, and then of course I'm hard pressed to demonstrate how that's possible. But I actually use a video game metaphor. I wrote a whole paper on it, about like how only when you put all these components together do you get a game. And once the game is epiphenomenal, like you have a controller, you have the hardware, you have the software, you have the player, but until you put all these things together, you don't have a game. And the game influences the other systems involved. It heats up the machine. It and has invokes emotional response and sensory response in the player. Like the controller is moving and doing things. So once you have all these things, you're playing a game. But the game influences the whole system. Same thing with consciousness. Is like you have to put all these, the mind and all that, or the brain and all these fucking organs and meat together. Once you get all the fucking meat together, and as just a certain way, consciousness is kind of like epiphenomenal. But it's I don't know. This is why I didn't pursue philosophy, because I'm fucking bad at it. But yeah, anyway, so I have discomfort with dualist philosophy, but that's what this feels like. It just feels like I'm a girl in a dude's body. That's what it's kind of always felt like. But that's philosophically, that's troublesome for me, because I don't do dualism, and nobody really does dualism anymore. But I guess somebody, I mean, some people do, but materialism is all the hot shit right now. And if you can't reduce it to fucking synapses firing in the brain, then what are you really doing with your life? Um, you know, you don't know. I don't know. I don't even know. So with that, I get catharsis through like philosophy and introspection on it. Just thinking about it helps, but I definitely feel disconnected from my body. Paranoia. That is for sure a big one. That one's something I struggle with, like, in a lot of ways. But I talked about it already with my gender identity, with them not really being like, not really believing me, or not really being like convinced of my authenticity. I'm constantly wondering if they think I'm real or not, or if they see me or not, or if they're using me, or if they want me for my delicious girl parts. You know what I mean? Like, because being a girl with male sexual organs, um, a male sexual organ, I guess. I don't even. That's bullshit. I don't know. This stupid language. A penis, a girl with a penis. You know what I compare it to? It's like it's an elongated clitoris, is what it is. The female hyena has a longer clitoris than the male's penis, and they are matriarchal, and so it's natural. In nature, we have big clitted gals who run the show, and that's just what I am. So you know what I'm saying. And you know what, when it comes to clits, they can be stimulated, they can be sucked, but they don't penetrate. I'm a bottom, so we all know that. But that's just my take on it. But I'm always, I'm paranoid because everybody's after me for my, they want me. Most guys that talk to me and get close to me want me to, do them. They want me to top them, and I don't want to top them. Like I don't want to top anybody. Like it's not just dudes either. Like I mean, the thought of topping girl too is like when they express a thirst for that or a want for that, it usually makes me nervous too because I'm like, oh fuck, you know why? Because it makes me feel like a dude when I top, and I just need somebody to go slow on that one with because, shit. It's like literally we're having sex and I'm being traumatized. That's what's happening, and I want to top. Like I do. There's like I don't hate my penis. I want to like use it and stuff, but like that's what it is at this moment. Is it's just trauma for me, and so I need somebody to kind of like patiently work with that and go slow with me on that one. Just make sure I'm gonna be okay. But it's like I try to make people understand, but I get pushed for it so much, and even when I make it clear I'm a bottom to somebody, like, and but maybe one day I'll top, like they just it gets brought up and gets brought up and gets brought up, and I'm just like, fuck, dude, stop. So I'm paranoid. Paranoid people fucking using me for that shit or whatever, or they just want what they want. They just want what they want. They can throw me away. But maybe that's what I want is to be thrown away. I don't know. Yeah, and doubts as to the authenticity of my own identity. How about that? How about that for a layer of paranoia? Thoughts that maybe I'm not even fucking real. That maybe I did have a midlife crisis. That maybe oh no, I got fucking woked. I got suckered by the woke agenda. You know what I used to joke is right after I came out, this is during COVID and everything, and I told my partner, I was like, at the time I was like, hey, if anybody gives me shit, I'm just gonna tell them that it was from the COVID shot, like and I did make that joke a couple times, and a couple times I think people looked at me like you know like I was a leper. They were like, oh shit, do I get it if I touch you? Like I was just like, look, I'm kidding, but if that's what you want to believe, though, yeah. But even and I'm sure all trans people to some extent like probably struggle with that idea of just like, what if I'm not real? Like what if what everybody's telling me is true? What if they're right and I'm wrong? Like what? Fucking mind blow. What? But yeah, it's like can't help but like worry about that shit too. Like and so that idea of me not being real leads me to the next one, which is this idea of inexistence. Like I liken myself, like so, yeah, like inexistence like follows me around. Like this idea, like I liken myself to a ghost. Like I talked about that earlier. Like only a few people see me, not everybody sees me. This idea that if I don't sell my authenticity, I don't exist. And most people don't think I'm real. Like most people don't. Like even some people who are close to me, and sometimes I have to put it up with people who don't think I'm real. Like I'd have to work with them or something. Like and luckily I'm kind of isolated these days, but like I feel for a lot of the trans people that have to work with people who just give them shit day in day out, and they just and just get affirmations that they don't think they're real, that they can fuck off, like essentially. And it's like I've dealt with it. I don't deal with it as much lately, but it sucks. um and the last category is trust. I struggle with trust, and but through trust, I achieve catharsis through connectedness with another person's like essence, like real trust, like really like trusting somebody like you know with your life essentially, like that an allowance to trust somebody else with me that much, and allowing to share myself fully with somebody else, like that's really appealing to me. But it's something I struggle with, and it's something that is not easy for me. So that concludes the elements contributing to mental suffering. But we still have two more categories. One of them is about the same length, and the other one's really short, though. So honestly, we're almost done. And thank you for watching this to this point. By the way, like, I don't know, this just kind of came a working through thing for me, which I think I really needed today. Like, I think I needed to sit and chew on this a little bit more today, because it's been like 5 or 6 weeks since I've written this, but I've really only sat with my therapist once over it, and I really haven't done much with it besides just get it out there. I considered it like my treasure map. Like, once I wrote it, I was like, oh shit, this is the fucking roadmap to success. This is how I can find my way to what I'm actually looking for. Which brings me to the next category: elements of intense release and catharsis, like tools in my toolkit to relieve the pressure of these elements of mental suffering, and to get me closer to these like pillar of needs, and having my needs met. These are like things within like kink and scenes that are beneficial to me, I feel. And maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? The first one is endurance. So I'm not a masochist, but taking pain and discomfort for others' approval. I actually, God, I'm so fucking dumb, and I've never even like really shown it to anybody. I don't know if I can show you this fucking scar, but yeah, I've got that. Do you see that right there? Yeah, that fucking scar on my wrist is from when we were in junior high. This cafeteria would serve these scalding hot French fries. Like, like they had a reputation. Like, we all knew. Sometimes they were fucking hot, stupid hot. But sometimes you get a juicy one, and like that you burn your mouth if you were dumb enough to if you didn't know how to navigate your lunch. And so these fries would come out occasionally, and we would gather them up. And one of us, not me, got the smart idea of, hey, let's see who can, because we're all a bunch of boys, you know what I mean? And hey, let's slap them on our wrists and see who can hold them on the wrist the longest. And so we all got like the most brutal fucking fries off our trays that we could. We all agree that they were all about equally as fucking like chaotic. And I won. Of course I won. I held mine on there longer than anybody until it got cold. I worked through every bit of mental pain that came to me, because I knew I could beat it, and I knew I wouldn't react, and I knew I could stone face that pain until it was over. And I did, and it left me with a fucking scar, and it like bubbled up, and like it was super embarrassing, and like, oh my god, it's awful, and like, and it's always something I have to bring up when like I'm with an intimate partner, because like it's something you really only notice if like you're like holding my hand or like stroking my arm or something. You'll feel it and be like, oh shit, what's this? And I'm always like, oh, it's French fry burn. um, but I was always super embarrassed about that scar, and sometimes I think I try to come up with a more something. I think I used to just kind of say it was a French fry, but it was on accident or something. Like, I was too embarrassed to admit that I did it to myself, but also because I did it to myself to show not only that I could take more pain than anybody else, but for their approval. And so when I take pain, like in a kink scene, it's more like I get off more on when I can feel the energy of the top enjoying it. Like when I'm really getting pieced up, like in taking it and enduring that pain, to feel that energy of how much they're getting their jollies off it. Like, that's where I derive my satisfaction from. So yeah, taking pain for other people's approval. And catharsis through the praise and acknowledgement of the endurance. That's important. Is like I need to know. I need to know whether they're telling me verbally how much they're enjoying it, or they're showing me with their body language, their fucking grunts or whatever. Like, get primal with me. I don't give a shit. Like, you do you. Like. Yeah, and the desire for like marathon bondage scenarios, like that's another aspect of that. Like, I like to be tied up. I like to be tied up for a while, and There's something heavy about the endurance to me. Just like having that one focus on like this is the thing I'm going through. Like this is the thing I'm getting through. Like I'm getting put through. I'm enduring. That's what I'm looking for. Like, mm-hmm. Yeah. And so left behind kink. So this is something and I kept saying like, oh, I just want to be tied up and left. Like, people are like, that's not what you want. But I thought about it more, and I was like, there's two events from my young life where there's like a climax associated with being abandoned physically, and I think my body learned to fetishize abandonment is what happened, and so. And then I realized that the first time I ever looked into a pro dom was like 6, 7 years ago, and it was in the context because I found like I stumbled upon one that did isolation bondage, and I was like, "What? That's a thing?" And like they just had like rooms that were set up that they would like with different like themes and like with surveillance systems like cameras and shit where they would like fucking basically like put you in heavy bondage and just fucking dump you and lock you in a cell or whatever, like give you the illusion of that, and but do so as safely as possible. Like they would basically just be like nearby watching you. But you would feel that feeling of being like left there, and that one that called out to me so deeply, and I really never had thought about it, and I was like, oh my god. So I actually had like reached out to this dom and like had a conversation with them, and like they didn't live anywhere near me, but it was something that I was like, damn, I might be willing to travel for something like that. And they explained, and they were very like good. I mean, they were very like they basically said that they wouldn't even do isolation off the bat with me, given my experience level. That they would do like just some bondage and see how that goes, and then go from there, which was very, very good of them. But I think that not just being presented with a fast pass to where I wanted to go was probably a slight deterrent for me from wanting to pursue it. But also, I mean, it was expensive too, and it was far to travel, and I was just like, ooh, I don't know. But it was something that called out to me, and so I was like thinking about it more, and I was like, I think the idea of like being tied up and like discarded, I think that's what it is. It's like this idea of being like worthless and just like dumped somewhere, like that's how little I mean to somebody, is like they'll just tie me up and just leave me helpless. Like I don't even matter. Like my comfort doesn't matter. Like I can't get out. Like that's the space I'm like looking for. And that's also comes back to that. That's so hard to ask for. It's like, well, I mean, especially not having the words for it, but like, yeah, how do I fucking ask for that shit? And how do I come to terms with why I want that? And I think that's what troubled me most deeply about it, is why do I want that? Why is that something that I'm craving? Why is it something I get so emotional when I can't get? Like that, because that's where all this started, was like, I get so emotional about this and I need it and I crave it so deeply and it affects me on such a deeply profound level. Why? And that's where this is where I'm coming. This is what came out, is all this fucking shit I've just been talking about. But yeah, climax associated with the panic of abandonment, for sure. The third one is emotional masochism. This is a term my friend introduced me to. It was this idea that I'm not a physical masochist. I enjoy emotional pain, or I seek emotional pain, or I need emotional pain, or I create spaces of emotional pain to help me relive the emotional pain of childhood, of being abandoned back then. And then in relationships, I often feel abandoned, and that's part of and like even like given reassurances and everything, I still feel like I'm disconnected, or that they don't want me anymore and things, and I don't know at this point if that's accurate, if I am seeing that in the real world, or if I'm just again creating these hurt spaces. But they hurt, and I keep going through them, and it's like I don't know if they're real anymore or not, and like I don't know if I'm seeking partners who are not willing to be invested in me, And that's the ones I'm attracted to, is because I see the potential for abandonment within them. Does that make sense? Like, I'm like, oh, they'll look like they'll leave me. Like, I want that. Because even, I've been doing some like old fashioned like call lines, like work, just verbal stuff. And like one of the guys was like, came to me and was like telling me about what he wanted. And the thing he wanted was like, he wanted to feel very, very connected to me. And like I mattered, like I meant the world to him. And then he wanted me to just like cut all ties and leave him in free fall. And free fall wasn't his word. That was actually my word, because that's how I considered it, was like emotional free fall. Because I knew, because when he came to me and just was describing all that, I was shocked at every word he said, because I was like, oh my God, it's like me. And so I felt very competent, like I could handle that situation, because I was like, I know exactly what you're looking for. And I'm going to create that hurt space for you, or I'm going to help you create that hurt space. And it turns out like his was more like breakup centered. Like he had a traumatic breakup, and it was his fault, and he wanted to recreate that space where he was to blame, that you know and so a little bit different bend from mine, but still it was fascinating to have to like go to work essentially, and to see a client, and then them come in to my office essentially, and it's like looking into a mirror, and I'm like, and I have this impulse, I really want to take care of this person, like I really want to help them, like I really want to help them create that space that they're looking for, because I know how important it is, I guess, for me to create that space. But I want to do so safely. I want to do so within the confines of a safe relationship or a safe scene. I don't want to just like it to be pure chaos like it's been. um yeah, but that was fascinating. Yeah, just creating like these emotional hurts and everything. It was a new concept to me, and it made a lot more sense, because like physical pain just doesn't do much for me, like as evidence. Like I can take a lot of physical pain, it doesn't really mean much to me. um but like emotional pain is like, that's life. Like that's like, it seems sappy or fucking dramatic to say, but that's all I know. Like that's what I'm on this planet for, is for the deep hurt. Like existence is deep hurt. Like like we exist all within this world, with the specter of death ever present around us. Like it's the first thing that really shocks us about the world, is like, first that we exist, and then the second that we can inexist, and that like it can happen to us at any time. And then we start to witness it, and throughout our lives we start to see death, and experience it, and what it means to us, and go through grief and everything. And um but yeah, like existence is hurt. Like I'm so happy to say. I have a very positive outlook. I'm an existentialist. Like, I generally do feel like we have responsibility for what we are, and that we are free agents, and that there's a lot of beauty in that, and there's a lot of beauty in the agency and the freedom that we have of thought and consciousness and mind. I do believe that existence is a gift, and that's part of the reason I'm so attached to it. Like, I really do like life. Like, I'm so into it. Like, I love to exist. It's wonderful. Um, but like, and there's beauty in the pain too, and I think that's what I'm getting at, is like the emotional hurt. It's not like I'm saying like, oh, I want to live a life free of emotional pain or anything. Like, I want to have it safely. I want to get it within the confines of like a scene, whether that scene is like a dynamic itself, or it's like on a low grade thing going, but like, um or I don't know, but that's what I'm really exploring now, is like, what does this emotional masochism mean to me? Why do I want it? Is it something I need to work through to get over and to put behind me, or is it something that I need to sublimate and use to better strengthen myself? um I don't know. I honestly don't know. So that's what the work is for me today, and that's partly why I've been doing all this shit, is like just to get back on it, because I've kind of like put it aside a little bit, and like it's been hurting lately. Like lately, I've just been going to bed last few nights, and like I'll stay up, and then like I'll lay in bed, and I just can't turn my fucking brain off, and I just go into these places where I'm like I've already been abandoned, by the people who I've have connections with. I'm convinced that they've abandoned me, even though they haven't, and I go to this fucking space of wanting to withdraw, and then because that's how I like gain the power back, I guess, because that's the example that was set for me at an early age. Is like you foster connection, then you take it away, and that's that's the measure of control, I guess, over the world. Is like that's how I relive my trauma or something. I don't know. I don't know. Somebody recommended this book that I actually did order, talking about like how animals have this thing in their brain about how they process trauma and they relive it to like get over it, basically, and that's how they're able to like go through the horrifying shit that animals go through and then just keep going forward. But we have this like need as well to relive our trauma. Our brains do the same thing, but we don't process it the same way because of our like next tier brain or some shit, or our higher level of thinking or something. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. It was like the Waking Tiger, I think it's called. So I don't know. I ordered it. I'm gonna give it a read just to give me more like food for thought. Um, but yeah, and so the next category here is controlled fall or skydiving. I want to have these experiences within a controlled environment. I don't want to feel these intense despair places without a safe partner that I'm like engaging with, somebody who understands what's going on here, as well as I do. So yeah, I crave the complete loss of control, and that's what that skydiving comes down to. Is like, and for me, like engaging in this stuff and kink and all these things is like a form of skydiving for me, where my dom is my parachute, and I need to like trust them to open. Like that's the only way I can truly jump is and feel the fall and just release myself, as if I feel that they're gonna open for me when it's time for them to open for me. And that metaphorical opening can be a week after a scene when I'm starting to go crazy and sub drop all fucking sub crash all nuts or whatever. Let's see. Speech eye contact restriction. Yeah, we talked about that already a little bit. Having those taken away against my will takes the burden of proving my existence off me for a little bit, and that's important. Um, Objectification. Uh, I achieve catharsis through depersonalization, through the deliberate unrecognition of my cognitive reality. I feel that bears repeating. I crave the deliberate unrecognition of my cognitive reality. Like, I want a space where somebody considers me less than real, where somebody considers me an object. There's something about that level of depersonalization that I find extremely attractive. And I've always been like objectification play kind of within my dynamics, and being considered like a property submissive and stuff. But like, there's definitely a lot to that I want to dive into. um, Kind of an unthinking state, and also like I'm unblameable for it. That level is important. The next category, the last category, is pet play. Um, I'm like I don't know what kind of pet player you'd say I am. Like I just like the little puppy ears and the little tail sometimes, and just wag my tail, and maybe like eat out of a dog bowl or something, or like eat Cheerios out of a dog bowl, drink water out of a dog bowl, and a little bit of like maybe a bone gag, and maybe like I don't know, like collar and shit with my name on it, and put me in the doggy crate. Like I have a little bend towards that. That's pretty new. Somebody, a client, a cab person, had kind of broken my shell on that one, and I kind of embraced it as much as I have, which is very little because I'm so shy about it. But like, I find it cute and I enjoy it, and there's a level of humiliation involved. indulging in like in something that it just it's a guilty pleasure. You know, it's just like I don't have to dive too deep into it. Like I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm like a pup or like a like I'm not into like the masks and stuff and like too heavy of a level of it. But I enjoy what I enjoy about it and being able to engage with it with a partner is very important to me. And I've had a partner that like was a couple that have just full on embraced it more than I have, and I think that's what gets me about it, and that's what really relieves me about it is when a partner is more accepting of it than I am and encourages it. I'm just like, really? Like, oh my god, like oh my god, you know what it just fucking occurred to me? My microphone and my gag are wearing the same. We're wearing the same outfit. How embarrassing. How embarrassing, Lindsay 19. Um that was not intentional. That's God, I feel like I need to change clothes now. Mm. She was wearing it first. Um so honestly, if she was wearing it first, she needs to go change. But also it's like a channel for my like chaotic little puppy dog energy and like it helps me feel more okay just being like silly and lighthearted and shit like that. Like, I'm a very silly person. Like whether you've seen me live or not, like I'm a goofy motherfucker for the most part. For the most part. Or a cunt storm. Like either way. Either or, right? If it's not one, it's the other. But either way there's some reliability involved there. Um and yeah, there's I get that I already talked about the catharsis through the engagement and acceptance of the feeling assured that like that stuff is okay. So that is the majority of my trauma spreadsheet. We have three more tiny categories. These are one last category, one last pillar. Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna talk. These are the three things that I have the most anxiety about and the lack of understanding about. And I don't understand them, and that's why they make me nervous. I guess that's what I'm saying here. Excuse me. Let's see. Sex. Sex is number one. First note I have confusion. Topping makes me feel like a man. Gardened about my bottoming virginity. I don't want to just. I'm giving it up. Like I want to make sure somebody's gonna like want to do it again and like have a little bit of a connection and. Literally, I'm about to be the 40-year-old virgin. In a couple of years, I will be the 40-year-old virgin. Fingers crossed. I have a deep desire for sex. Deep desire for sex. I want it so bad, but I don't know how to approach. I don't know how to approach it. I don't know if I should just like if I can do it casually. I don't know. I don't have no idea. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm demisexual. I mean, we've been through that one, but DS or vanilla? I don't know. I've toyed with the idea of losing it with a vanilla partner and just having some little vanilla sex and seeing how that goes. And then I go back and being like, I only want to be it in the context of somebody submissive. And that they're gonna have to like discipline me to a point where like I'm begging for it. And then they won't give it to me until they decide that I'm broken enough. Like I don't know. I don't know which way. So yeah, see my erotica called Thirst for more insight on how I would like to lose it. Let's see. And the next pillar is my dom side. I have a lot of anxiety about my dom side because like this is weird. I don't know. Again, these are all things I have anxiety about and confusion about. So if I can't really explain it that well, but the notes I have are perceived feeling that I'm quote being watched when I'm practicing submission. This idea that like I'm observing myself as a submissive because I'm like keeping an eye out for what I like in a submissive. Does that make sense? That sounds like psycho shit, doesn't it? this deep down suspicion or resignation that I may be more attuned to being a dominant. I think there's a deep fear in me that like I'm just gonna wake up one day and be like, this is what I'm supposed to be. Like this is what I'm good at. This is, I don't know. Like unease perhaps stemming from feeling pulled or drawn to it as a reaction to failed submission. So sometimes when I'll do submission and I'll crash or have a bad experience or feel really whatever about it afterwards, I'll be like, let's do dom side again. Like let's have another look at that. Let's have another crack at that. And it's weird. I don't know if I like that. I recently decollared. That whole saga is probably a good topic for the next episode. But the saga of me decollaring and how fucking traumatic that whole couple of weeks was. Not because of the decollaring. Decollaring was what I kind of used as a way to throw myself into an emotional free fall. But it stuck, thank God, and I am officially not self-collared anymore. But I considered that more evidence of my dom side than my submissive side. I considered it as a move to protect my submissive side by my dom side, rather than a move by my submissive side to protect myself, if that makes sense. It sounds like psycho shit, doesn't it? Let's see. The perception, the title is I'll be open, talk about my preferred title. My preferred dom title is Siren. That's if you've ever done, femdom with me, then, and if I've ever liked your vibe, because I usually only tell like the subbies that I like, that I'm like can tell that I like their vibe, that they're playing with me good, that I'll tell them at a certain point that we're playing. I'll be like, well, actually, from here on out, you can address me as Siren. That's my chosen dom title, and the reason I chose that is because I associate very heavily with the imagery and the metaphor of somebody who appears submissive and uses submission in beauty and allure and charm as a way to ensnare people and entangle them. Because that's literally what the name Siren translates to, is like entangler or binder. Like that's what the root is for that word. It's like the idea of I may only appear submissive, but I'm actually dominant. And I'm in love with the ocean imagery. Like I'm a big ocean slut, and Lovecraft, and I love creepy ocean imagery, but also avian serpentine imagery, and that's like ever since I was a little, ever since I was little, I was drawing like these serpentine snake creatures with arms with like fucking like kind of avian feathers on them and shit, and kind of looked like Talon from I think they were inspired from Talon from Primal Rage. That was a hot game back in 1996 for the Sega Genesis. Had a freaking amazing sound, and you could like kill the little like the tiny people in the background, the little giantess stuff worked in there. You kill the tinies or whatever you do to the tinies, but you could eat them too. Oh yeah, you could eat them and get health back in Primal Rage, couldn't you? But I used to draw that when I was little. I used to just love that imagery of just serpentine avian features. And that one, I didn't even make that connection until recently. Just the other day, I was just like, because I took a picture of myself, and I felt it like captured like my dom stance, like and it was noticeably like serpentine looking, and that was because I even had like a pointed thing. There was like, and that's what I like about it. It's the curves. The serpentine is like the curves of the body and the softness mixed with the pointedness of the avian features. I love that contrast. Like I want to get a fucking glorious fucking leg piece tattoo of like I want to design it myself though, or like have an artist like design exactly what I'm looking for and get a massive leg piece of a siren. But yeah, that's but that makes me, I don't know, just that idea of like, it's not that I'm not really submissive. It's I don't know. I'm definitely a switch. Definitely a switch. But yeah. But then the other one, the last one, I'm probably not gonna like actually mention the last category on there, but it involves, but it it's the notes I have on it are shrouded in guilt. Like the last one, I'm so fucking guilty about it, I won't even say it. But and I achieve catharsis through freedom and total release. And it's nothing cryptic. I mean, it's nothing like, fucking like, crazy or self-harmy or anything. It's just, it's a kink that I enjoy. That like, it's heavy to be upfront about, and I don't think I'm ready to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel bad about wanting it, but that's what it represents to me, is just a place where the struggle's over. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not death. It's not death. Like, it's okay. It's like fucking enslavement or abduction fantasy or something like that. Um, and it's just like, and plenty of people do those, and they like engage with them, and like have arrangements, and they do things and everything, and I'm not saying like I'll never explore those avenues, but I'm not ready to explore those avenues, and I think that's why it's the last item on this trauma sheet, is because I'm anxious about it. It's something that's in here that I really haven't come to terms with yet, and I don't know what it means for me. But because I always joke, I'm like, oh God, if I could just run away to Las Vegas and join a harem, it's like my life would be perfect. But obviously it probably wouldn't be. But also like it's just fantasy shit. But then there's ways, and like I said, there's ways to engage with these things safely. People do it all the time, and I could be one of those people or not. Like you don't have to do everything. It's like, that's one thing too, is like you may be into something and then you do it, and then like you're like, oh shit, that's actually not for me. Like there was um a girl who does like really intense, like 24/7 like stuff, or she'll take, her and her partner will take like a week, and they would like live stream, or like just do a lot of make videos of everything, but they would like put her through really intense like periods of like CNC stuff, and like, but she would do like journal entries too, and like she was talking about that first night, because they were going to do like a several day thing, and that first night she didn't sleep for shit because she was like tied up when she was sleeping a certain way, and there was something uncomfortable about something, and she couldn't really get to sleep. And so when that first real day started, she was like, she was really like, having a hard time of it, and was like off the bat getting put through like intense shit. And that was like, and she talked about what a challenge that was. And but more along the vein of like, we think about these things, we want these things, and then a lot of times we experience them, and the reality is much different. I mean, that, first time I ever did rope, like that stuck out to me, was like, you see people tied up with rope, you see a lot of rope bondage, but until you're the one tied up, you don't know what that like compression feels like, and you don't know what that restriction feels like, and what the biting feels like, and what a good bite or a good tie feels like, and what's too tight and what's too loose, and like what's acceptable for your body to go through. Like every rope bottom at some point has to ask themselves, like, do I just need to endure this, or is this something that is a problem, or is it too tight, or am I not able to maintain this position? Like, um, there's a lot of body reading that goes into it that you don't really think about until you're actually in that position. Um, but that is all the items on my trauma spreadsheet. I have a conclusion down here that says, this is my conclusion, that being bound and abandoned is a way of recreating and reliving the trauma of feeling those of. Let me start, because I didn't mean relieving the trauma. I meant reliving. So being bound and abandoned is a way of recreating and reliving the trauma of feeling those I need leaving me. Someone I depend on walking away, and I am powerless to follow. I am left behind, discarded and small, inadequate on my own, and I am seeking to create that emotional headspace. That is my conclusion of my trauma sheet. So there you go. So that was important for me just to read, and for me to deal with over this last hour and a half. it took a lot of work going in. Like I sat down for several hours one day and just busted that thing out, and I made it. We got it, but I really haven't interacted with it much lately. And seeing it now, like new things have come up that I'm able to better put together. Because recently I did a scene where everything, I did a couple scenes. I played with a partner that I've really grown close with, that I've like built a rapport with, and I was having a lot of this abandonment shit come up even after that. And so there was this begging this question of if I can do everything right, and I still, because it's like doing submission is like dredging a lake for me. Like all these corpses come up, and I'm like, oh my god, all these corpses, and I can pull them, and I'm pulling them out up on the beach, and I'm like trying to identify them. They're all rode up. I'm trying to identify them. I'm also needing to autopsy them to find out how they died. But while I've got them opened up, and as and as I'm opening them up, I'm like, there's more coming up, and so I'm like, God, I need to go pull those out before they float off. And so I start pulling these corpses out, and while I'm doing that, I get back and find out the sun's been beaten on these ones on the beach, and the ones that I opened up are fucking rotting, and they're worthless now. And now I'm not gonna be able to fucking tell anything, and like. And so now I've just got all these rotting fucking corpses that I'm sitting around looking at, and I can't do anything about it. And so, and it's like I'm all alone too. And it's like even if there was somebody like a partner there to help me really dredge, or they can't identify these bodies. They don't know who these people are. Like they can sit here and kind of be sad with me and commiserate with me, but like at the end, like it's on me to get this place cleaned up, and my only hope was that it won't be like this next time, or that there will be corpses next time, but there won't be as many, or that it won't be as shocking next time because I'll have been here. I've seen this. Like, but I crashed epically after those scenes, and they were intense. And some of y'all may have seen the pictures, the palette wrap and stuff. Like, those were amazing. They were beautiful, beautiful scenes with a beautiful, competent partner that I have so much trust with. And I've found myself still like feeling abandoned despite like all the reassurances and everything. And so that became, and that's what I'm going to talk about probably more in the next episode, is how all of that thing, like, so it wasn't even until 5 days after our scene that I really started to spiral. And then a day or two after that, that I fucking full fucking nosedive and shit, and like, bad mental space. And yeah, it was really rough. It was like a week and a half ago. I don't even know. It was a couple weeks ago. It's like 10 days ago. But anyway, I kind of figured I would talk about that when I came on, but I kind of just spreadsheet came up, so why not? It felt like a good way to make an episode of an hour and a half. And I mean, and part of me is like, do you really want to be this vulnerable with the world? But like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, literally what I do for a living is like be vulnerable, and if people want to watch, if they're actually that interested in what I have to say, and they can resonate with them on their own journey, or they can maybe they know somebody and they listening to me talk, it's almost like listening to that person talk. And so maybe they can go and have a better understanding of that person, or they can recommend that person to this, or something. I don't know. I feel like there's no point in not throwing all this out there in a message in a bottle style, and just for whoever finds it, like, um, if you want it, have it. Like, this is me. I mean, this is what comes up for me, like, because I've been having a hard time lately, and it's like I feel like I shouldn't be having this hard of a time. Like, I mean, generally, like, things are good. Like, things are good with me. It's just the hunt for the partner has not been great, and like the isolation pervades, and I don't know how to break out of it. But anyway, I'm gonna end this episode. It's long. This has gone on way longer than it probably should have. I should have split it up, but whatever. Who cares? Could have, should have, would have. Okay, so anyway, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Yeah, we'll we'll pick it up next time. Bye.